Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Smack Talk Live. Yeah, I think this is week 3 of all the shutdowns.
Yeah, that's about right. Something like that.
Not too much actually this week in the sports world.
No, not really.
So it's pretty quiet week. So we'll be able to get through a lot of our draft primer, as I call it. It's not really our draft preview. We haven't started that yet. But I've been reading some interesting things for prepping for the draft preview. So a lot of different opinions on there, especially in the top 5. It's quite interesting. So just want to quick make a note. I put it out there in the chat. Is our website is up and running.
Up and running. It is available. Yes.
So you can get all our podcasts from the first one up to now, right on the website. It'll link you right to YouTube. There's a place to send us messages if you have any comments, suggestions, anything like that. You can contact us there. Also, a couple new things. There's nothing on there yet, but we have a blog section where we will be posting just some short, maybe thoughts about some things, newsworthy things that happen in between shows that we may not touch on. And then also 2 other pages that are part of the website. We have our mock draft page, and there's really nothing on it except for the first round draft order. What that's going to entail is my picks for the first round, along with your picks for the first round, and then
we'll get that stuff out there. Yeah,
and then the actual pick, so we can see how we fare.
Sure.
And then also, and this is something that we'll probably have time to do. That's why we added it on there before the draft, is to grade every team's free agency. So that's something that I think we'll work on, and we'll put that out there. What we believe, if they got A, B, C, or D, or an F.
Right.
I know a lot of people these days. Oh, you can't. No. We'll make people feel bad because
that's just the way it goes.
there are definitely winners and losers this offseason.
And the best part for us too is I think sometimes the big news networks, when they put those things together and they grade people, they tend to be a little bit more PC about it. They're not necessarily willing to call people out or to give them too low of a grade, but I'm not afraid of that. We're not beholden to anybody. So
nope.
If somebody gets an F, then they get an F, and that's just the way it's going to go. So
right, and until a team employs me and pays me,
right,
or if somebody's going to pay me to do this, I am not worried about being PC at all.
Right. Yeah, we're just going to throw it out there. And if our opinion is that your team did a bad job in free agency, then we're going to say it. So
that's right. So sorry, but I know a couple of my grades already for some teams. It just is what it is. So
yes, no, exactly. Yeah.
The only non-NFL thing that really wanted to get kind of your thoughts on, because the NBA has started talking about how they can get their their postseason
playoffs in the rest of the season.
And to be honest, I don't know if it's going to be traditional playoffs. I think you're going to see shorter series until the finals.
Right.
Which is fine. I mean, with the situation the way it is, that's understandable.
Yeah.
it sounds more and more that it's not going to be the traditional, the Milwaukee Bucks, 1 seed in the East, they play 8, so you play half and half. It sounds like they are going to get the teams in 1 or 2 locations, like the East in 1 location, the West in 1 location, or all teams in the same city and all play in the same city. And a couple that I've read about has been Atlantic City in New York, and then also Las Vegas. Now, obviously, if they restart this in June and we're out there when this happens, that would be awesome.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
That'd be awesome if the cities will open up. Yeah, Atlantic City, I mean, to be honest, I don't see how the East Coast and New York, that area, deserves
New York, New Jersey, right, yeah.
Their basketball teams are horrendous. The Knicks have been an utter failure for the past, ever since Patrick Ewing's been gone.
Yeah, I mean, they've had flashes here and there, but yeah, they haven't been anything to speak of.
So but I'll tell you right now, there would be nothing that I can think of to kind of bring people back to normalcy and kind of get people back in that vibe of it's okay to be in a large group of people than watching a bunch of NBA playoff games in Las Vegas.
Yeah. I think that would be an amazing thing for the sports world if they could pull that off. I just think that, if they're going to do that, they should just go right. We talked about this a little bit before. They should go right to the playoffs. I don't think they need any more regular season games at this point, because by the time they start this thing up again, they should just go to the playoffs and go from there. Putting them all in one city, yeah, I'd rather have it be in Vegas. If you're going to have a spectacle like that and you really want to jumpstart this thing again, put it there. I totally agree. I don't think that Atlantic City, I know it's a big gambling place and everything, but Vegas is more notable, and that's where you want to put it if you're going to do it. I could see them doing, if they want to fit it in and they have a certain timetable, they could do 3 or 5 game series as kind of like they used to in the past. To me, that would make the most sense. If you're going to do it, you still have an odd number. Make sure you give the teams a chance. But the interesting part about that, I think, is, in a 7-game series, usually the better team will win out, and if they have a bad night, it doesn't cost them. But I think you could see an interesting playoffs if you have a 3-game series or something like that. And I know they hadn't said exactly what their format was going to be, but if a team has a bad night, sometimes it's all it takes, and you could see a high seed losing in that format maybe a little easier than in the longer series.
Well, and I even read, and I doubt the NBA would do this. I think they would get crucified over this. Couple articles I read is that some of the lower teams, the bad teams in the league, said, why don't we do like a March Madness type of thing, a one and done?
Yeah,
and it's like, no, you can't do that.
No.
I don't see any viable team saying, yeah, that's a good idea. Now, if you want to do, a couple, 3, 4, play a couple more quote unquote regular season games just to let teams get back in the groove of things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with that, but not letting every team back in the playoffs. That would just be, I think, you would dilute the entire season then. It's already, say, the Bucks go on and win the title, it's great, but if the one thing you're taking away from the city is that if you put it in one city, that whole city is losing on the experience. And I mean, I understand why they'd be doing it.
Right.
But
you almost have to. I mean, you really can't avoid that. You can't. I don't think it'd be too early, and it'd be kind of hard to put it all in those cities where, you have their home cities for them to be able to have it again. And I think, you're not counting on crowds. You're just counting on people watching. You'll have some people that'll come out and watch it in person, but you really aren't going to get the crowd draws you need in all of those towns or cities anyway. So you might as well just have it on and have the spectacle for the people to watch at home. You'll get some people there, but most of the people will probably watch it on TV and stuff. So
yeah, and I'm not in agreement on that. And this probably, I don't think so, because Milwaukee has been waiting for something like this.
Yeah,
I worked down in there for about 2 years, and that city, when either the Brewers or the Bucks are good, is nuts for those teams. And I think if the Bucks would be in the NBA Finals, I don't think people would care. They'd drink beer, get drunk, go to the stadium.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. Yeah,
what I'm saying. So I disagree with that people won't come out to these games if you put them in the hometowns. I think just logistically and timeline wise, it'd be hard. It's gonna be hard to pull off, but it'd be a huge boost for local economies, all the air travel, to get money flowing back into those businesses. So timeline wise, logistically, I understand where they're going with it.
Right.
And what they want to, the reason they want to do it. But I think if they look at the big picture, how you could be not necessarily a savior of local economies, but like, hey, we understand that this is going to be hard for us to get all our league stuff finished this season and basically jump right into next season.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough on teams and players and everything. But we want to support local economies. And by taking the playoff series and games out of those cities, you're not supporting your NBA franchise cities. Because you'd have a big influx in either Las Vegas or Atlantic City, wherever those take place.
Wherever they are, yeah.
Unless you're going to say, okay, the profit that we make, we're divvying that up between the playoff teams to put back into their communities. So
maybe they should do that then, right? I mean,
that
might actually not be a bad idea.
Because again, I'm not worried about the players and the coaches the front office staff. The front office staff is still working. I'll tell you that right now.
Right? Yeah, for sure they are. Yeah,
the sports agents are working. The Bucks are still doing like individual workouts, like it's the middle of their season. I'm looking at that, hourly employee that works at the stadium.
Right.
And they say, okay, hey, the NBA is coming back. And now all of a sudden, guess what? Though we're not playing games here anymore for the season. So that's what I look at it that way. So we'll see. I just, I don't think they're going to just say, nope, we're not doing the playoffs, because I think any of the big leagues, MLB, NHL, NFL, MLB, if you go without a postseason and don't have a champion, you're hurting your brand, and you're hurting it bad, and it's going to take a decade to come back from. So it'll be interesting to see what their final plan is, but that's
I don't know if it will take a decade. I think it depends on the sport. I mean, for me, hockey's got a following, but if they went without a championship, that could hurt them maybe more than basketball, I think, for a casual fan.
Well, I'll tell you right now, if the NFL, if this happened, earlier in the Super Bowl got canceled, the NFL would be getting crucified, and you would lose a lot of casual fans that would never come back because those casual fans are already teetering because of all the issues the NFL has already has.
Yeah, it is true. Yeah.
So I don't think it's a slam dunk like if the NBA doesn't do a postseason that it would hurt them for a very long time.
Oh, it will. It will. I just don't know about a decade. I just think it would. It would, but I don't know if it'd be that long. But I agree. It would hurt them quite a bit.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But it's kind of like I said, it's been a slow week. Had a lot of time to digest and think about that whole thing with them. Right. So let's switch gears back to the NFL.
NFL, yeah.
Last week we got through 2 divisions of the draft.
The North divisions for the AFC and the NFC. Yep.
North divisions. So we might be able to get through 4 divisions tonight. We'll see if we get on a roll. We're just going to keep on rolling like we did last week.
Sure.
And see what happens. So
move on to the South. That's what we did last time. Might as well.
Yep, that's what my exact thoughts were. I don't want to start with the NFC South because I think that's going to be a very intriguing division to talk about.
Sure, we can go to the AFC first. I'm fine with that.
Let's start the AFC South. We'll start with Jacksonville. Okay. Holy smokes.
It's kind of hard to say. I mean, they are kind of all over the map. They have some good players there, but there's so many issues that they have, and I don't know. I mean, it's kind of funny. Everything I've read about them is basically here's the issues they don't have, and then here's all the issues they do have, and there's a lot of them. They've got a pretty halfway decent offensive line. I think they ran the football okay last year. They've got a couple of really good linebackers, but everything else is just I don't know. It feels like it's in disarray basically. And where did they start?
And that's what I was going to say. You have Fournette there. Probably unless something changes, will probably be his last season in Jacksonville. They haven't re-upped him. And I know there was tension there when Coughlin was there, and now he's gone. So they get better. Who knows? So this could be the last year of Fournette. They have the 9th pick in the draft,
right?
And the 20th. So they have 2 first-round draft picks.
Yep.
You still need to address quarterback.
Yes, absolutely.
When do you do that? You have the 9th pick. I don't know if there's – I know there's a lot of quarterbacks in this draft that could be good in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Are they worth a top 10 pick? Right now they have the pundits, these people that get paid a ton of money to talk about this stuff, have 3 quarterbacks going in the top 10. Yeah, and I just don't see it.
I think people are in love with the quarterback position, and I think a lot of times they talk about doing that. The only person I saw who one of the big networks at ESPN, it was Cynthia Furland, who does a lot of analytics stuff. She didn't even have Joe Burrow going as the number 1 pick. She had Chase Young going, and she was basing it just on numbers and saying that overall he was the best pick, and she didn't have 3 quarterbacks going in the top 10. Other than that, I saw, everybody else has, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, and Tua going in the top 10, or maybe even the top 6, from what I saw on a lot of their draft boards. I don't know that. I don't know if all 3 of those guys are NFL ready to jump in right away and go.
We'll dive into that.
Yeah.
Big part of the draft preview. I got my own opinions on Tua.
Well, you and I have talked about him before, and we both are not sold on him. But anyway,
you go on quite a rant on Tua.
So I mean, here are the Jags, right? And that's the thing. So I think their biggest problem with, and we just talked about this being in disarray, it's you have a coach who has been a losing coach, and if he doesn't get it right this season, I think you and I would both agree he's fired after this season if he doesn't get it right.
Absolutely. I'm sorry.
Right.
I would have fired him after last season.
I would have too.
That was one of the most surprising non-coaching moves in my recap of the season and our recap. I am shocked that you get rid of Tom Coughlin, but you don't get rid of the coach.
Right. Yeah, it makes no sense to me either.
I just don't get it. But,
so how do they draft? They don't draft for this coach, or do they, hoping that it works out, or do you draft because you think it's going to be the best player that you can get, and then maybe they'll work in the next guy's system? I mean, that just seems counterproductive.
Again, I said this multiple times last show, is that I'm looking at this stuff from like if I was taking over as a GM, the first thing I would be doing before I even would take this job, would be going to the owner and say, stop talking about this team playing half their home games in freaking London.
Right. Yeah.
We are not going to London. You are not going to attract fans or free agents that are quality guys to your team if they might think they have to play half their season or a quarter of their season in London as home games. So you need to shut that talk up. That's the first thing. That's part of that whole disarray that organization has, and they've had it for a long time.
Yeah.
So you get back to the draft. So what I do here, obviously there's something going on there that the owner must like the coach,
right?
For whatever reason,
right?
I would not be drafting for him. Two ways you can get good in the NFL, right? Draft and develop, or a couple. Draft, develop, sign free agents.
Yeah.
We all know you need a good quarterback. They don't have it. They're not in a position, I don't think, to get that next guy. Mensah, I think he's going to be viable in the NFL. I don't think he's going to be great. I think he's going to be a player like Wayne Gabbert was for him, have one good season, and then all of a sudden just nothing.
Yeah.
And
I mean, he could be manageable or serviceable in the NFL, but I don't think he'll ever be a superstar.
No. So what I would do is I would start rebuilding my offense and defensive line, because those are guys, whether it's this coach or a new coach, it's not going to really affect them because wide receivers, running backs, quarterbacks, safeties, corners. Those players are all affected by who their coaches are because it's how they're used. If you're a tackle, you're a tackle. If you're a guard, you're a guard.
I mean, they do different blocking schemes and things like that, but
it's more of terminology for the line than it is totally learning a new scheme as a quarterback.
Right. Yeah.
Or as a running back, trying to get the timing down. The line's like, okay, if we're running this play, I got to get this guy.
Right. So I think you're right. I mean, you just get the best players that you can that are available, and you build that way. And the thing is, any NFL team that you see, if they have really good line play anyway, they're going to be successful. I mean, San Francisco did some of that in the draft with what John Lynch had done to build the team up to where it is now, and their lines are phenomenal, both of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a viable strategy. I think a lot of people were saying, "Oh, the Jags should do this and that, and they should get a receiver, and they should do." I mean, I don't. If there's a really good receiver there, you could draft him, but again, if Maroney's fired and all his coaches are gone, then that's a new scheme, and that will definitely impact those players. So, D line is, I think, where they probably need the most improvement of any line that they have.
Yeah, I mean, for that when Coughlin first got there, he went in and got all these high level D-line guys they couldn't afford, and
Right.
they traded them or released them. So so they need to rebuild the defense. Probably need if you're going to say Minshew is your guy, you need to get line help also. So I could see them doing a lot of line drafting on both sides of the ball. To be honest,
they should, but now if they don't do that, then what? I mean, then they're just.
You go back to you take players that have an easier time adjusting to any scheme. So you can go corner, you can go, even safety a little bit. I would not draft. I'm going looking if I'm taking over, and
if you're doing,
in my opinion, I have to be stuck with this head coach for at least this coming season. I'm going to draft for the future, and knowing that quarterback, running back, receiver are all dependent on the scheme that we're going to run, and this guy's not going to be here next year. I'm not going to waste a pick. To get a guy like that. So I don't see Jacksonville being very good next year.
No, I don't think so.
I think they're going to be worse than they were this year. So sorry, Jacksonville fans, you're back to having a
mediocrity or less,
and tarps on your seats. So let's move up to the Indianapolis Colts. They're an intriguing team now with the signing of Phillip Rivers. So they become an intriguing team. They got the 6th pick overall. No, not I'm looking at
13. They're at 13.
The Chargers. No,
they're not. They traded that. Never mind.
Do not have a first-round pick. So they're in a position where I think they still need to get some help, some weapons. They're obviously in a total win now. This is not we got Phillip Rivers for 2-3 years. He may be call it quits after this year. He had contemplated retirement before signing with the Colts. So you just don't know. So you have to go out. I think they have to get some weapons. They have I think a very good offensive line. Their defense is okay. They're not going to be able to do really too much in the draft, though. That unfortunately they don't have.
They don't have a lot of draft capital, and they don't have a lot of ability to pop around and make some trades and do something to get somebody they need. So I agree with you. I think they need some offensive help to give Rivers as many weapons as they can possibly get. They don't really have a tight end, so maybe that's a spot that they look at. They have the 34th and the 44th pick.
Yep.
So, I mean, maybe that's a spot you say, okay, if there's a tight end available, you could maybe go that route with one of those 2 picks.
And if they think, we're getting into that mid to late 20s, is that, and this could be an intriguing thing. We talked kind of about it last week with Green Bay, is that, if there's not a true guy there, trade back, I'm sitting at number 30. Colts call up and say, we'll give you the 34 and maybe a 3rd round pick.
Sure.
To move up to 30 to get a guy that we like, that we think that might go before 34. I'd pull that trigger in a heartbeat.
Oh, sure. Definitely.
I can see the Colts maybe trying to package
something like
picks,
that.
Moving up into the late 1st round to get a guy. You said they need a tight end. I think they need receivers. The Packers just signed the Funchess from them, who's a solid receiver. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Colts. Again, unfortunately, they don't have a lot of. I guess I look at draft capital, the 1st and 2nd round. You can look at the 3rd round picks where you can find some really good players that really at any.
You definitely can.
Draft. but it's, imperative when you're in a win now situation to try to get a guy that's ready to play.
Right. And you have a really hard time finding those guys in later rounds. I mean, they don't always mature that quickly into a player you can use immediately.
Right. So, I think the Colts are going to be better. I think they can beat a playoff team this year.
Right.
I like Frank Reich as a coach.
Yeah, me too.
I think he's a solid. He's a motivator. He's kind of, everybody gives Doug Peterson all the credit in Philly. I think a lot of that was Frank Reich, to be honest. I mean,
he did a great job. Yeah,
he's the one who got Nick Foles to play as well as he did. I don't think that was Doug Peterson. So, Colts going to be better. Not sure what they'll be able to do in the draft. They need some tight end help. They need receiver help. They probably use, maybe a linebacker in there too. I know they signed a couple of journeyman linebackers, but let's be honest. If you're a journeyman, you're a linebacker in the league this day and age, you're just a stopgap until they find a young guy to take your spot.
Right.
It's just the way it is this day and age. So let's keep moving on up to the Tennessee Titans.
All right.
Who I think after last year, this past season, we're all pretty high on. And I like their team. I want to have some cautious optimism with them, though, because it's kind of reminds me of the Browns from 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That they're like, oh, they're on the cusp now. Now the Titans are, I think, more talented team than Cleveland, but I just, again, I'm a do it multiple years, and then I'll be on your bandwagon.
Right.
So it looks like the Titans don't pick until 29. I think their offense is pretty solid. They could use a receiver. I think they're.
Do you think? I mean, a lot of the talk is them replacing Conklin, who went to the Browns. Do you think that that's something that they address at 29, or do you think that they're not worried about that because they've got some of the guys that can step into the system and work, not be as good necessarily, but would be serviceable?
I think, they could go that route. I think, again, once you get past that, into the mid-20s, you're a candidate to draft back.
Yeah.
Because usually you're going to find a nice guy, a nice player there.
Right.
But you're not going to find that game changer.
Yeah.
Whether it's a starting O-lineman or a playmaker in the defensive secondary or, on offense, they might contribute as a rookie, but it's not going to be until they're probably second or third year where you're going to be able to see what they have. The mock draft stuff's kind of all over the board, from D-line, O-line, running back. I mean, I don't know who this one guy is. Oh, MJD. Now, if the MJD can get a job as an analyst with the NFL, we both should be. Seriously, looking, and we'll go over this mock draft stuff. He had
I saw his stuff.
4, 5, 6 first-round trades in the top 9. I mean, I think there's going to be some first-round trades.
Sure, definitely, but that's a lot. I mean, that's kind of nuts. Yeah,
not that many in the top 10.
Yeah,
and then he has the Titans taking Jonathan Taylor.
Oh, yeah. Look, I mean, they have Derrick Henry. They locked him up. He's going to get a lot of carries. It's gonna go wear in his body. So some people have said, oh, well, Derrick Henry, his body will wear out, and then they're going to need to have another running back. I mean, I understand the logic behind it, but I don't see the Titans doing that this year. I do not.
Jonathan Taylor doesn't fit their style.
He does not. No, he does not.
He doesn't fit their style of what they want to do.
No.
Derrick Henry is between the tackles, hit the hole, run some people over, and then break into the open field.
Right.
That's not Jonathan Taylor.
No, it's not. He can run that way, but that's not his primary running style, and that would not work in their system.
And I think we know.
we know, yeah. He's a Badger. We know. We've seen him in person.
So it's...
I don't agree with that. I think more likely, I mean, for me, and we talked about this guy in free agency, Logan Ryan is not signed.
Right. And
that's the biggest need for them, really.
I think they need secondary to get some better depth in the secondary. That is evident when they played the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, the Chiefs, Super Bowl champions, have Patrick Mahomes. But in after the first quarter and a half, they couldn't cover a soul.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't cover Sammy Watkins. And I don't care what people say. The guy's a statue. He's not
that good.
He was when he came out of college.
No. It's been a few years since Clemson, yeah.
So I think, again, people are going to be like, oh, you say this about every team. Yes, because it's just when you look at it, this is what you do at the end of the first round. If there's not a guy that can immediately step in, pay dividends, you trade back, get picks, build depth. That's how the good teams stay good. Right. They don't sit there and be like, oh, we got a first round pick. We have to pick somebody in the first round, right? No.
Right. No.
I mean,
a lot of successful teams did that, and I will say this, Ted Thompson did quite a bit of that, especially early on, where he traded back 1 year and he got Jordy Nelson in the beginning of the second round after trading out of the first round. That was a smart idea. Got more draft capital, and that's what the Packers kind of were aiming to do at the time, was to build through the draft, and that's what they did successfully. They didn't really go out in free agency at all during those years, which a lot of people criticize. But, that's what you do. Like you said, if you're going to go that route and you're going to build through the draft, then do that and commit to it. And if you have a late round pick like that, then do that. And the thing is, those teams usually in the late first round are good teams. That's why they're in the late first round. So, if they're going to build, they need depth behind a lot of the superstars that they may still have on their team.
Right. So, again, I think if I was in their draft room, I'd be saying, if we can't get a corner or a safety that can come in and at least play, in the nickel and dime package for us at 29, let's trade back. Get a couple
or even an impact defensive lineman, because they probably need one of those too. Honestly, they need pass rush.
So, that's where I would do. I said the same thing. Sort of the same thing with Green Bay, is that if the guy's not there, trade back, back. Get
and
picked.
I think they could do. I think they could do a running back in a later round. He's not going to be as talented as Henry or anything like that, but pick a guy, that will fit your system, and he doesn't have to play a whole lot anyway. I mean, Derrick Henry is going to mostly be the one running the football, but you put him in there every once in a while, you let him spell Henry and earn his chops a little bit, running the football in your system.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and you can always, again, you look at the quality running backs in the NFL, the top guys, not many of them are first round draft picks.
No.
They just aren't. So,
it's not the same way anymore. that it used to be.
We are doing NFL draft primer. We're talking about the AFC North or AFC South right now. We're going to be going hit in the NFC South here in a few minutes. So moving on from the Titans, we are going to go to the Houston Texans.
Yes,
which not a team that just has boggled my mind since free agency started. You trade away your best wide receiver for a middle of the road running back, and you don't have a first round draft pick.
Right. So, wow, that's about it. Right there, you go.
Obviously, I think Houston, you need to look. There's two things I think they need to look at. Obviously, wide receiver, you need to get an impact player. It's a wide receiver rich draft, so you could get somebody maybe in the second round. Right. The other position I think they really need to look at, okay, is defensive line. And I know some people are going to be like, what are you talking about? Well, here's the thing. And I thought this trade would have been more on par this year than trading Hopkins, but trading Watt. I really thought that J.J. Watt would get moved. You know, he still could. You know, you look at one of those, late 20 teams that need a pass rusher.
Yeah.
They could make a deal for him. You lost Clowney. Yeah, Watt has had multiple injuries.
And severe injuries too.
Yeah, it hasn't just been like, sprained ankle, sprained shoulder. It's been torn muscles, joints. Yeah, his body has taken such a beating in his career that I'm surprised they didn't try to move him instead of Hopkins.
And I mean that to me, and just briefly, that whole thing with Hopkins, I don't know. We talked about that quite a bit. It's even if you have a personality issue or a conflict or something, they got robbed in that whole trade. So, they willingly did it. I don't know. I am
going to correct myself. Nope, nope. I'm not going to correct myself. They don't first round. They did pick up the 40th pick, so they have the 8th pick in the second round,
right?
And then the 25th pick. So they have 2 second-round picks. This is where I might just kick some tires and you look at the second round, look at teams that have multiple picks in the second round.
Yeah.
Maybe I go to Green Bay and say, hey, we'll give you, J.J. Watt and pick 40 for 30.
Sure.
Maybe
if there's a guy that you really want,
right? And then maybe swap our late second round picks, something like that.
Sure.
So again, I think Houston's on the decline. I feel for Watkins. I think he's a rising star in the league. He's just not surrounded, I think, by a good head coach. Knows how to motivate players. He's a great coordinator, and he's proven that. But again, there's something with these guys that come from New England, that through that New England path,
coaching tree. Yeah,
they try to coach like Bill Belichick, but they're not Bill Belichick.
Right. Yeah. And they do have some success. I mean, Vrabel obviously has had some success. He didn't coach with Belichick, played there. But, and Brian Flores, and then Matt Patricia. So I mean, there's a lot of guys that are out there. Bill O'Brien has had some success. But, yeah, I think you're right. I think that people suffer from that. They have to develop their own style. Yes, you want to try and coach like him, but guess what? You're not Bill Belichick. That's not your name. That's not who you are. So you have to develop your own style. Take what you've learned from him and try to do it your own way. And I agree. I think the Texans are a team on the decline right now. Those are the needs that they have. But the problem is, I think defensively, they have needs up front, but they also have needs in the secondary. And I don't think with the draft as it is right now and the picks they have, that they can address both of those needs to be that much better next year, all the way across the board when it comes to that. I mean, you talk about the Titans getting torched by the Chiefs. They didn't really get torched in comparison to how the Texans got torched by the Chiefs in that game, where the Chiefs stormed back and just walked all over them for 2.5 quarters and put up an ungodly amount of points in that time. So they really just, they showed their weaknesses there, and they were defensive weaknesses, and it was bad.
Well, and again, stuff like that, I put that right on the coach.
Yeah.
And I'm a coach, and it might be high school, but when you have that big of a lead and a team comes back and then doesn't just beat you, but demolishes you, that is all on the coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my philosophy. And I hope somebody gives this to some of these head coaches around the NFL, because I'll tell you what, I'll come toe to toe with you and challenge everything that some of these guys say, because I think they're bad coaches.
Right.
I don't care if these guys are professionals. You need to treat them with respect and find a way to get through to them to see the goal of the whole. Because let's be honest, you're a pro athlete. You have an ego. Let's not be stupid. All these guys, I don't care if you're
everybody. All have an ego, no matter what their public persona is. Yeah,
I am an NFL player. They all have egos.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to stroke an ego. I'm telling you right now, I coach high school football. You don't think I've had to stroke some egos in the past?
Right.
And
that's minor in comparison to what some of these guys are in the pros,
So you got to stroke ego sometimes. That's just the way it is. And, you have to give guys a say and just let them say their piece and just say, okay, I understand that, but this is let's try it my way. If it doesn't work, we'll try it your way.
Yeah.
But there's some coaches, and I think Bill O'Brien's one of them, that says, no, it's my way or the highway.
Well,
you're not going to have very many people that want to play for you then.
Right.
It's just the way it is. So,
well, and you got to remember too, I mean, people praise Bill Belichick for what they feel is he's that way, like it's my way or the highway and nobody can tell me otherwise. But you think he was like that early on in his career? I mean, he coached the Browns. He wasn't overly successful, and he came to New England, but it's easy for Bill Belichick to be that way right now because he's won all the Super Bowls that he's won. I don't think that people would have said that about him right away at the beginning of his career.
No,
he's developed into this now.
When you've won multiple Super Bowls, you can be that way. Because all you have to do is all you have to go is walk into a meeting with a player and have your Super Bowl ring sitting on the desk.
Right.
And be like, you want one of these, you're doing it my way.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So we'll see. We've talked about the AFC South. We think the Texans are actually going to finish third behind both the Titans and the Colts, unless something dramatically changes between now and the beginning of the season.
Right.
I
don't see it, though. Yeah.
I don't see it. So that wraps up the AFC South.
All right. So then on to the NFC South.
The NFC South. This could be one of the most intriguing, and I think this is going to be
just a fun division.
Right. The funnest division to watch next season.
Yeah.
Because you got the Saints who are going to be good.
Yep.
Okay. I'm not sure what your name is. Right now, we're just doing our draft primer. When we do our mock draft, I think we will take callers to chime in on their favorite team when we get to their pick to see who they think their team will pick. And maybe if I can figure out the website, we'll add a fan column. Maybe if we get enough interest in that. But we got the Saints are going to be good. The Falcons, who I think will bounce back a little bit. I mean, they did get hot at the second half of the season. Now they've cut some guys and lost some guys, so it'll be interesting. Tampa Bay, I think, is not necessarily because of Tom Brady. Tom Brady is going to basically get them, I think, 2 more wins just because he's not going to lose games for them. Right. They're going to be a fun team to watch. Panthers, I don't even know if we can classify them
but I don't know
as an NFL team this coming year. I think they're going to struggle quite a bit.
They'll be bad.
I think Bryles is going to be over his head. To be honest, they saw, he rebuilt Baylor, and rebuilding in college is different than the NFL.
There's a lot of guys that we could say that's the case. Nick Saban comes to mind.
Right.
No success in the NFL, but yet the most successful college football coach. So
here's the thing with college. If I need to find myself a quarterback, I have a whole country I can go scour,
right,
and find a guy that fits my system and buy into my system and do it my way. In the NFL, you only got so many guys that can play at the NFL level.
Yeah,
you can't just pick whoever. So, we'll start with the Panthers, obviously, because we always start in the cellar when we talk about teams and move up.
Yes.
So the Carolina Panthers, just going through the first round here because I'm not sure.
They're, obviously we talked about them getting Teddy Bridgewater, so they're not in the QB race, so to speak. I don't think that's their goal.
They have the 7th overall pick.
Yep.
Obviously, I don't know if it's a total rebuild. I think Ron Rivera kind of his time was done. The time was done. He had a good run there. I just don't think the guys were relaying to him as good as they did when he first got there. I think the same as happened in Washington, unfortunately. Obviously, I think the big thing is, and here's the thing, when you talk about obviously Bryles has never coached in the NFL. The best way to be competitive.
Rule.
I'm sorry. I don't know why I said Bryles.
Yeah, that's right.
I think that was the old coach
at
Baylor that got fired. And but Rule, correction, is to build a defense, and their defense struggled. You can say you want about the offense. Your third quarterback got hurt. You knew your offense was going to struggle, but then your defense just could not hold up. So I think any level of the defense that they can pick up a guy is going to be a positive for them. They have the 7th pick, and then
because they lost Luke Kuechly, and obviously you just don't replace a guy like him. But they need defensive help all the way along, all across the board, from the line on back.
Right.
There's some decent linebackers there, but you just can't really replace Kuechly. And they did sign a corner. I mean, they signed Justin Burris. Oh, it's safety. Sorry, not corner, but. They have some capability to put something together on defense. There's some talk about them trying to draft a quarterback at this point, and I don't necessarily see it. I mean, I understand that you look at Teddy Bridgewater and you say, okay, I don't know if he's the guy forever, but he could be there for 3 or 4 years. He's not a 1-year deal like a Phillip Rivers walks in and you might have to think about drafting a quarterback.
And Bridgewater is young. He's not that old. He's only, let's see. 5 years.
Yeah, I would say
so
that's probably about right. Yeah.
So he's into his mid to late 20s. He's got a good, if he can stay healthy, he's got a
right.
good 6 or 7 years left.
I think so too.
If he can play. So I
Right.
think if they would stretch for a quarterback here, you're basically saying we're blowing this whole thing up. Even worse than it was.
Even worse than it would be, right. And I've seen people say that they should try to do something like that, and I just don't agree with that at all. That's just not the route they should go.
Yeah, and my whole thing is, especially in the NFL, you don't have to blow your whole team up to rebuild it. You have to be smart. And again, I just don't see it. It frustrates me and irritates me when you have these guys that these owners hire that are supposedly football guys, and they go and blow up a whole organization.
Right.
And
what's the point of that?
And you're
in
not,
some cases.
I mean, if Cam Newton doesn't get hurt, the Panthers are probably 7-9, 8-8. They're right there last year, and if that happens, we may not be talking about Ron Rivera not being there anymore and Cam Newton not being there anymore.
Right.
You lose Kuechly, you let Greg Olsen go.
Right.
Greg Olsen, he's old man Greg Olsen. I mean, guy's been in the league forever. Great tight end. Love him as a tight end. He reminds me of Ed West with the Green Bay Packers.
Right.
Just I'm going to get the job done.
Yeah, great player. But he's at the tail end of his career. Right. So he was going to probably be gone no matter what. So I think they talk about that, but it's a need now. But losing him wasn't exactly.
And with Kuechly, injuries unfortunately ended his career. So I don't think they're as far off as people think they are. Now, it's going to really depend on if Bridgewater can play, and at a decent level. I'm not even saying he has to be a stud. You have Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
So I'm telling you right now, if I'm Christian McCaffrey and all of a sudden they draft a quarterback at 7, I'm calling my agent and saying, you're going to get me traded.
Right.
Or
get me the heck out of here.
I'm not signing a new contract because they're rebuilding. By the time they rebuild my career, my prime is done.
My prime will be done, exactly. Yeah.
It's the same thing with Saquon Barkley. You have to look at what you have and be like, we have to maximize our potential while these guys are in their prime.
Right. Yeah, I think so too. And I don't foresee them doing that. I just don't know why people would talk about them doing something like that. It's like you can't undermine the guy you brought in to be your guy. If you don't think he's your guy, then why did you even bring him in the first place?
Why did you sign him?
Why did you sign Teddy Bridgewater to this big deal if you don't think that? So for anybody, I even lay the gauntlet down. For anybody that says that Carolina should draft a quarterback, you're dead wrong.
Yeah, and if you disagree with us, you can send us a message on our website, and we'll respond next week. Because looking at like the standings, they allowed the most points in the NFL last year, 470 points.
There you go.
A minus 130 point differential, which wasn't the worst in the league, by the way.
No.
But obviously they need to get the defense.
They need to get better on defense,
So we'll see what happens there. Right. Moving on to let's go to the Falcons.
Okay.
The Buccaneers, I think, are a little more intriguing than the Falcons are. The Falcons have the 16th pick in the first round.
Yes.
Obviously, they are going to need some help on defense now. They let a couple of guys go that, when they made the Super Bowl run and their defense played really, really well, and these guys had really great seasons, they're unfortunately at the end of their contracts. So what does Atlanta have to do? Pay them. And I think they overpaid them, and they regressed a little bit. So they weren't, they weren't getting value for what they're paying them, so they let them go and release them, which I'm okay with. Again, being smart with who you sign and what you sign them for. They did get they signed Dante Fowler. So they still, I think, need some help with the D line. Again,
I think they need another player there. Yeah,
I think defensively is where they need to look. I mean, they did almost give up.
I think if you draft somebody, Dan Quinn has the capability of putting together something defensively that works well. They could use a rusher, and that's probably where they should focus on with that 16th pick. Secondary help they definitely need. I think Trufant left, so they have to get another secondary player, a corner specifically, I would say, because defensively I think they were more deficient. Offensively, that they're a little, I would say they're a little clunky. They have players that it just feels like the scheme wasn't there. We talked about that before too, when Shanahan left and they had other offensive coordinators. It didn't quite work. And part of that was the offensive line, but they have talented players on their roster on the offensive side of the football. I don't know how it's going to work with Todd Gurley being there now. I'm sure they're probably going to run like a 2-back system, but it feels like they've got some possibilities on offense to be good again. But yeah, defensively, I think with the 16th pick, I think they have to go for somebody like an edge rusher or an interior lineman, probably more of an edge rusher, like pass rushing presence.
Yeah, I would agree. I think if they just improve their defense, if they can kind of keep their offense kind of on the same level, that'll get them into that playoff hunt again to see what they can do. Obviously, they need to make a move the next couple of seasons because you have Matt Ryan's not getting any younger,
right?
So their window, I think, is closing. Especially bringing in Todd Gurley now. You got, you're starting to get guys that are getting up there on offense.
Right.
So you have to be very careful with, again, what you're going to do. And again, my thought process on if you want to be a sustained success in the NFL for a long period of time, you have to build, I think, the defense. You look at the run that Bill Belichick has had in New England. They've always had a pretty solid defense. They've never had like horrid defense where their offense just carries the team.
Right.
You look at those teams that consistently win and are in the playoffs. Their defenses are more than likely, I'm not going to say always, more than likely a top 10 defense or near there. So I think if they build the defense, I think they have enough pieces on offense to be in that playoff hunt. I said, I think the NFC South is going to be a really fun division to watch.
For sure.
And that leads us into another reason why it's going to be a fun division to watch, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, with the addition of Tom Brady. Again, everybody's talking about how, because of all their weapons, that he's going to have this great statistical season.
Right.
I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
What he's going to do is minimize mistakes at the quarterback position, which is going to allow them to win more games.
Yeah. That's what cost them games. I mean,
right.
It wasn't like Winston didn't throw for, by the way, the most yards in the league last year. But, he made so many mistakes, and that's where Brady's going to absolutely improve in his decision-making alone will give them, like you said, 2 wins. Well, then they're 9-7 instead of 7-9. So they're right on the cusp of the playoffs because of that.
So again, I'm not on the whole bandwagon of Tom Brady's going to have, all of a sudden become an MVP candidate again. Again, I think it's one of those, he's going to eliminate mistakes at the most crucial position on the field. Now, they're kind of an intriguing team,
right?
Because what do you do? Well, you have weapons on offense. You have a solid defense. Obviously, I think they need some depth on the defense of line.
Right.
Maybe an O lineman. Depending on who falls to them at 14. They're an interesting team because now you have Tom Brady at least for this season. I know he says he's going to play for however long he wants, which he's earned that right.
Right. But let's be honest, he is obviously one of the oldest quarterbacks in the NFL. As great as he is, he's not a long-term solution.
He's the same age as us.
Yeah. That's right.
So do you stretch for a quarterback here? Because do you want to try to get somebody that maybe could sit on the bench a year or two behind Tom Brady,
right,
and learn from him,
right,
and not do what Jim Kraft did and tell Bill Belichick you're trading this guy even though you like him, Jimmy Garoppolo. Right, yeah. Because let's be honest, when Tom Brady decides to hang it up, who do they have?
Yeah, they don't have a solution.
Well, yeah, my T Sports podcast. What round? That's the thing. That's kind of what I'm talking about. Do you stretch for a quarterback 14? Maybe if a guy falls there, or do you trade back, or do you wait till the second round? That's the interesting thing. That's why I said they're an interesting team at 14 because they could go a lot of ways. Obviously, because you have an older quarterback in
a smart pick is an offensive lineman.
Right. The smart pick would be a lineman that could step in right away and play and help protect him.
Right.
Or do you think you're good enough right now to make a run at it and maybe trade back, get a couple draft picks, build some depth, get that possible successor to Tom Brady, have him sit behind him for a year or two, so now you are set for the future. You have one of the best quarterback coaches in the league in Bruce Arians.
Right.
Again, I take it as a perspective from a GM perspective. Unless a guy at 14, if I'm sitting there and I'm looking at all these guys that we like,
right?
If there's not a guy that I can look at and say, yeah, we're pretty sure he can step in and pay dividends for us this year.
Yeah.
And there's teams calling me to trade back, I might do it.
Right. Well, and I might think about it too, just because, they may look at it and say, okay, if there's a quarterback that somebody really wants, and I'm just using that, I mean, it could be a different player, but if there's a quarterback there that somebody wants, they may want to try to target that spot, just depending on how things turn out in the first 13 picks. What if there's that one guy that's still sitting there for some reason that some other team below you still needs, and they really want to target it? Yeah, maybe you do that at 14. Yeah.
No, I'm just throwing this out there because I like throwing these crazy thoughts out. Is that they're sitting at 14. Yep. You have the Vikings who need a ton of help.
Yeah.
Everywhere has 2 first-round draft picks.
Yep.
Trade up with the Buccaneers. Buccaneers go down to 22 right in front of New England. They take the quarterback New England wants. Wouldn't that be something? That'd be
awesome.
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. And you don't think Tom would be like, I like that move.
I love that move. That's great. Yeah.
I don't care what he says about that. There's whenever a superstar, a Hall of Famer, leaves a organization, there's hard feelings. When Brett Favre left the Packers and they traded him to the Jets, and he didn't want to go to the Jets, you don't think that he felt slighted? Come
Oh,
on.
of course he did.
Um,
Yeah.
So
Even when Joe
know,
Montana left the 49ers and went to the Chiefs,
right.
I mean, there's definitely, there's
And then-
always
and
hard
then-
feelings when that
And then when
happens.
they retire, everybody hugs and kumbaya, and everything's better. So
Right.
So again, the very intriguing team at 14, the Buccaneers. I like the Buccaneers.
Me too.
I don't know if they're good enough to overtake the Saints. Because I mean, again, Saints just keep finding ways to load up their offense. Now, can Drew Brees keep up what he's doing? I mean, you got two of the oldest quarterbacks in the league in the same division,
Right.
but two of the best.
Right.
So
Drew Brees and Sean Payton is just one of those marriages that worked out well, football marriages that worked out well. You've got him for another year. So, I mean, can he continue to perform at that level? Probably. They have the weapons to do it. I think that, he'll keep pumping out stats like he always has been.
Well, so let's just lead right
into the Saints. Yeah, sure.
Right into the Saints. The Saints add Emmanuel Sanders. I mean, now you got Michael Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, Alvin Kamara. I mean,
the rich get richer when it comes to that. Yeah, that was a great pick for them. That was a great trade for them.
It's just
sorry, not a trade. They signed him in free agency.
So, they, obviously, I think they still need some help on defense. They gotta kind of be careful here, because again, they are in that window is just about closed. And I'm not shocked. I'm kind of surprised they didn't try to keep Teddy Bridgewater around.
Because you got to imagine that Drew Brees is done after this year. I mean, he talked about potentially being done anyway. You got to imagine he's going to be done. So
right. So you look at it. They do need some help defensively to maintain what they're doing. I
would say that you just got to look and say they probably just need to draft whatever the best player is that's available. I mean, there's no real glaring weakness there. I think they just kind of have to look at it and say that would be the best. It's possible for them at 24 to do exactly what you were talking about earlier, and that's potentially trade back to get more draft picks. I mean, that's a very possible thing for them to do just to build the depth that they need.
But they're also in that territory where, again, there's a lot of nice quarterbacks. I'm going to say nice quarterbacks. Nice look. Yeah. They pass the eye test.
Yeah.
That you could pick it. I know, they. When you look at their roster, I know you talked about them. The Taysom Hill, the people are kind of high on him, but Taysom Hill's already 29 years old.
Right.
And he's 4 years. He's been in the league for 4 years. You'd think if they were that high on him, they wouldn't have had to sign Teddy Bridgewater last year to be Drew Brees' backup.
Right. Exactly.
So I think they could be a team that, again, a lot of these teams we're talking about here that are, when you're one of those teams that are a playoff / Super Bowl contending team,
right?
You look at it and be like, okay, is there any guy that can push over the top, or do we have to kind of start building also for longevity? And I think the Saints are definitely in that mode.
Yes, they are.
I think they need to get somebody that can sit for this year and possibly be the guy next year. Because I don't know, Drew Brees, I don't think is as driven as
Tom Brady is. or maybe is egomaniacal.
Right. Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
So you have that
Yeah,
effect.
I see what you're saying, and I think that if they have a guy who either falls to them or is close to where they're picking that they really want or could see being a viable long-term solution, maybe at that position, they might do something with that. But if they don't, I could see them trading back, and that seems the more likely option to me is them trading back and trying to get some additional picks to build some depth
Right.
from this draft,
Because
and then
they
build for the future, like you said.
yeah, and they got to be look at it this way too. Alvin Kamara is 4 years in the league,
Yep.
so he's probably got about 3-4 really solid years left.
Right.
So they need to make sure they hit on a guy to be able to step in when Drew Brees decides to retire. Otherwise, it could be, unfortunately, back to the old Mike Ditka Saints that were god awful.
Yeah.
God awful.
Yeah.
So again, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Though, anytime you get that period between 20 and 30, those last 10, 12 picks in the first round are always interesting picks because teams have to look at it and be like, are we trying to add somebody to come in and fill a need that we have right now, or is it somebody that is going to pay dividends for us in the future? So it's really, really, it's just one of those things that I think philosophically the organization needs to look at to see what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So again, a lot of this is all guesswork right now because we're just talking about who needs possibly can maybe what or need what in the draft. I'd say we got about 10 minutes left. I don't know if we really want to start another division because
I don't think so. I think that would take too much time to go through another division at this point. We can save the East divisions for the next time.
And and we might have to look at our time schedule. We might have to try squeezing all four, depending on how much time we want for our mock draft show.
Sure, definitely.
But again, looking at the draft, I said we got about 10 minutes here. When we look at the draft, are there any? I guess we can start talking about some players. And start talking about the mock drafts because we're not our mock draft shows are us actually going to be going through all 32 picks in the first round, making our selection of what might happen. So this is a primer show, a draft primer show, so we can talk about some of the more notable things that are out there right now. We talked about. Let's just talk about the number one pick, the Bengals, and people are all over the board with them. Some of Joe Burrow, a lot of people have Joe Burrow going number one. And I think everybody looks at the Bengals saying, "Yeah, that's going to be the thing." But again, I brought this up last week. If you're going to draft Joe Burrow, why wouldn't you release Andy Dalton?
Yeah.
So I'm not sold on that. And like you said, that Cynthia Frelund, she hasn't taken Chase Young, which I think is almost a better pick than Joe Burrow. Because he is probably better than the Bolster brothers.
Yeah. Everybody's so high on him. Everybody thinks he's the next best thing. I'll say this. I mean, the smart money is that he'd be the best player out of this draft right away. So you really think he's that good? I don't know if I'm that sold on him in terms of, and I'm not saying he's bad. I guess I'm just not in love with him.
Well, what I said is that they're saying he's better than the Bosa brothers.
Yeah, right, yeah,
You know, I again, I always like looking at it from if I was the GM, what would I be doing? I'd be trading this pick. I don't like the number one overall pick because there's just so much pressure for the young individual to have to come and transform an organization, especially one like the Bengals that has struggled mightily the last couple seasons. And unfortunately, I don't see a lot of change in that this coming year.
We had a lot of up and down with the Marvin Lewis years, and you had some success there too. But yeah, the season before he left, they struggled, and obviously last year they were terrible. So yeah, if you get a guy like that, I guess Chase Young, he could be that impact guy for you right away, and you would know that he'd be that impact guy for you right away. I think the problem is there's so much premium put on a quarterback and the quarterback position that people are so enamored with it. It's almost like the Bengals would be scared to trade this pick or not pick Burrow because what would people think of them if they didn't do that?
I'll tell you right now,
you can't let yourself fall into that trap.
Right, exactly. And until this year, we're before this past college football season, were we even talking about Joe Burrow as the number one pick?
No,
Tua.
Right.
Was so he had a really good season at LSU. Great. National champs. Great.
Yep.
But there's not somebody out there like a Peyton Manning or Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
These guys, they are not in that level. They're not that caliber.
No, right. I agree with that. Yeah.
They're not we draft you, you are our starter. I don't see that in any of these quarterbacks, and I could be wrong. Maybe that's why I'm not working in the NFL.
ESPN, right? Yeah, or in the NFL, right? Yeah.
I don't see that in these guys. Now, like you said, they're enamored. Fans are enamored by the quarterback position.
Right.
Again, as a coach, yes, the quarterback is the focal point of the whole organization, the whole team.
Right.
But again, how you build sustainability is you have a solid defense.
Yeah.
You look at San Francisco. They didn't make the Super Bowl because of Jimmy Garoppolo.
No, not at all.
They played awesome defense and ran the ball all over the Packers.
Right.
They didn't pass the ball. You don't need a stud quarterback. You need a solid quarterback.
Right. Well, they did the same thing to the Vikings, and for a while in the Super Bowl that they kind of controlled the clock, and their line play allowed them to do that, and that's what John Lynch had done. Like we talked about, they created great offensive, defensive lines. The Bengals could benefit from doing that, and if you draft a guy like Chase Young, you think about it, he's a once in a however many people say generation. I don't think he's quite that guy, and he could prove me wrong. I mean, don't get me wrong; he could end up being a Hall of Fame player and be so wonderful. But he'll be a good player no matter what. You get a guy like that right away, and you still have Andy Dalton, like you said. So maybe you let him ride it out for another year. You're going to be bad anyway,
right?
And then maybe you draft your quarterback next year instead. That's still a possibility. So,
or you possibly take somebody later in the draft.
Sure. Right.
So again, I like Joe Burrow. I think he's going to be a solid NFL quarterback.
Sure. Right. Yeah.
Don't know if I personally, if I was in that war making that decision, I would not be pulling the trigger on drafting him number one.
Right.
I would trade the pick. Now I wouldn't give the pick away. If I don't get a good deal for it,
right,
then I probably might look at Chase Young and be like, we need a playmaker now, not somebody.
And he's going to be a playmaker, yeah.
The other quarterback I want to talk about, we talked about him ad nauseum in the past.
Yeah.
Tua.
Yeah.
I'm going to probably bash one of your favorite new teams,
And then the Dolphins, yeah.
the Dolphins, because a lot of people are projecting that he's going to go to Miami.
Right.
If they do that, they're setting themselves back.
Yeah.
He is, and I may be wrong. I could be totally wrong.
Sure.
I don't see him being a top tier quarterback in the NFL.
Right.
He got
people fall in love with it, with measurables, and they look at him and they say, "Oh, he's got this and he's got that and he's quick and he has this." But I agree with you. I don't see him being a top tier quarterback in the NFL. I just don't.
You look at
the moxie.
You look at this year, and I don't care, what was happened in Alabama with their roster or whatnot.
Yeah,
he did not play as well this year as he did his junior year.
Right.
And by saying he's a top 5 pick in the draft, I don't see it.
Right.
Now will he? Probably. He probably will get drafted in the top 5.
Yeah.
If not the top 10 for sure.
Yeah, because I've seen some projections putting him in San Diego instead.
Right. So, I don't trust quarterbacks that play like he does. That when things break down, the first thing he does is run. Dislocated hip. Yeah, the hip checks out fine. But now you have just set yourself up for issues down the line. Whenever he's limping, if it's that leg, if people are like, "Oh, is that the hip? Is that the hip? Is that the hip?" A very well-known player. Let's see if you can pick this one out of the archives. Having a great career, injures his hip, and did people like, "Oh, no big deal, he'll come back." Ended up developing arthritis and was out of the league in 2 years. What player was that? He played for my now adopted favorite AFC team.
Well, it's not. Oh, okay. No, that would have been okay.
He played in two pro teams, 2 leagues.
I know it's the Raiders because I know you're in love with the Vegas Raiders now.
He was a running back. Come on. He was a beast on Tecmo Bowl. Bo Jackson.
Oh, Bo Jackson. Yeah, I'm like, Marcus Allen didn't have that problem. Bo Jackson.
I remember the game. It was a Monday Night Football game or a Sunday afternoon football game against the Cincinnati Bengals. If the, I totally failed on that one. But he got a hit to the hip. They thought it was an injury and ended up developing arthritis because of that hip injury.
You're right. Yep. And he was as dynamic a guy as they come.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't. And
that was a nasty injury for Tua. That was really nasty. And, and I mean, you are onto something with this. I think we're both thinking along the same lines. Anyway, he's that style of quarterback. So all it takes is one hit from some linebacker that's hungry to punts on a quarterback, and then he's done. And then what do you do as a franchise?
So we'll see.
People will laud anybody that takes him. They will say that this is a great pick.
Yep.
A lot of people will say that, "Oh man, you're building for the future. Look how good he is." Blah blah blah. I don't see it. Injury is one piece of it, but I just think as a quarterback, he's not there developmentally. He's not there ready to play in the NFL. It's not the style that will be successful in the long term.
Right. And again, his style reminds me a lot of Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Johnny Manziel, those guys that when things break down, they're going to run and try to make plays. which is
Right.
fine at the college level. It
Sure.
doesn't work well in the NFL.
Right.
The only guy there's two quarterbacks that come to mind that could do that. Michael Vick and Randall Cunningham. Those are the only two guys that I can think of that when a play broke down, they could tuck the ball, run, and go 60 yards for a touchdown.
Right.
And
I would say right now, Lamar Jackson could be that guy. But again, he's done it only for a brief period of time, so we need to see if he can sustain that.
Right. So we'll see what happens there.
And Tua is not that rare talent that becomes one of those guys, in my opinion.
No. And then they have Justin Herbert, who's pretty high at Oregon.
Yep.
We'll see there. I think he's kind of more of a project guy. The guy that's skyrocketing, not skyrocketing, but is in that area.
A lot of interest on draft boards and a lot of teams is Love. Yeah.
Yes, is Jordan Love. Now, there's two guys. I mean, right now, this is where the first round is going to be really interesting this year because it really depends on, I think, what these better teams decide to do.
Yeah.
And really, there are articles out there right now about will Aaron Rodgers finish his career with the Green Bay Packers? I think he will.
Yeah, I think so too.
But at the same time, I look at this and they have Jordan Love going, New England somebody's having them taking Love, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert. There could be a guy at 30 that could intrigue the Packers. Depending on what happens with New England. And here's my thing with all of this. If, say, Jordan Love, he won't, again, actually past 24 at the Saints. Because I'll tell you right now, if Jordan Love drops past New England, the Saints will take him.
Yeah, they'll take him, yeah.
They will take him. Or, again, here's the thing. The Dolphins have 3 first-round draft picks.
Right. They have a lot. I don't think, personally, my feeling would be you don't take Tua and you take somebody else later on.
Yeah, at 18 or 26.
Good, and you get an impact player that you need. I mean, they brought in all these free agents across the board, but bring in some more talent. Why not?
I'm almost looking at, if I'm the Dolphins, I have 3 first-round draft picks. There are 5 or 6 quarterbacks in this draft that we could draft and develop.
Wait until later. Don't use pick 5.
We could probably get a veteran to come in for a year to play for us.
Right.
Let's get that number 1 pick and take Chase Young.
Right. Wow. Oh, you think that? Oh, sure. Okay.
I mean, unless you really want Joe Burrow.
Right.
But holy cow. I mean,
they could do that.
So really, I mean, the Packers, if they would be looking at that route, would be have to wait till after 26 with the Dolphins unless there's trades. Because you got from 23 to 26, you got the Patriots, the Saints, and the Dolphins, who all could use a Patriots and the Dolphins need a quarterback. The Saints, I think, need to draft a guy to develop behind Drew Brees this year.
Right. Whether they do it there or not, and they may or may not do that. Yeah.
But then after that, you got Seattle, Baltimore, Tennessee. None of those teams need quarterbacks.
No, they don't.
And to be honest, I don't think, again, we touched on this last week. I don't think Aaron Rodgers would be horribly upset if the Packers would take a quarterback at 30.
I don't think so.
I think
he stepped in too. He stepped into that position, so he should understand.
He understands the business.
Right.
and this is a wide receiver rich draft. You're going to be able to get some wide receiver help. They do need linebacker help also. Probably need to add some depth in the line.
Right.
But I think they can get that in the second and third round. Again,
yeah, definitely, yeah.
These guys that they have them projecting possibly to get at 30, these wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're going to be able to step in and be a game changer.
Right.
And if you can't do that when you are technically took third place in the league, unless a guy can step in and get you over the hump,
right,
you have to look for the longevity factor. So this is going to be really interesting. I can't wait for our draft, our mock draft show, because it's really going to be interesting, I think. On what we decide to do with each team.
We actually decide. We have to pin it down and make a decision. Right.
We have to either say, we have to, make a pick, and like this Lance Zierlein, he has the Bengals taking Joe Burrow, but it's a projected trade with the Dolphins. So basically, the Dolphins get the number one pick,
right,
at number one, and then the Bengals get the fifth pick and take Justin Herbert. So that if we think they're going to trade to get a certain player, that's who we have to. We don't have to do the logistics of the trade.
Right.
That's what we're going to have to do. So it's going to be really fun, I think, that show.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Do
some homework on that. Yeah.
If it wasn't, if we weren't under quarantine, I'd say let's find a place and
actually get together and do it. Yeah.
But we can't.
Unfortunately, can't do that. Yeah.
So we will. The nice thing is we can always get our show in because there's not much else we can do.
Right.
But we have plenty of time to do our show.
Right. So next show, I'd say we'll get into the primer for the East, and then we'll move on to the West with the next one after that. Or we'll try to do both of them in the same one, depending on how we are for time and how much time we want to spend.
We'll get our timeline for the draft show and then the draft itself. Because the draft is April 23rd. So
we may want to do all four divisions next time.
I think we're going to have to do all four because I think it'd be really cool for us to be able to do our show on the 23rd right along with the draft. If we can logistically pull it off.
Right, yeah. Yep.
Obviously that'd be a really long one. But I think it'd be pretty cool to do. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But we'll definitely see what happens there, or we'll figure something out. But is there anything else with any prospects, draft thing, nuggets that you want to hit on here before we end it and wrap it up for the night?
No, I don't think so. I think we can wrap it up, and then we'll have lots to talk about on the next show with all those divisions.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. We had a lot of people come in, make some comments tonight. Thanks for that.
Appreciate all of that.
For everybody that's listening, this recorded, we try to do our show every Thursday night at around 9 o'clock. Right now, unless something happens, it's going to happen because we're stuck inside.
Exactly.
But you can always listen to our shows. You can go to our new website, which is now posted on our page on Podbean. You can link all our shows through YouTube. You can also join our Facebook page. You can also contact us through our website.
Options. Yep.
There's so many ways we're expanding. Slowly but surely we're getting this built up for everybody, and hopefully everybody enjoys it. And we will continue
Be
to
out
bring
there
you
next week.
our thoughts on
Our
the
perspective.
sports world, even though they may be a lot different than a lot of people.
Even,
But that's what we want.
okay.
We don't
want it
want to be
unique.
cookie cutter.
That's right. Yep.
So thank you everybody for listening. Lone Wolf, we'll be in touch to talk about some show stuff and some other things to continue to get this thing to grow. So everybody, thanks for joining. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Stay safe, be healthy, stay at home if you can, so we can get through this, so we can get our sports back.
Exactly.
Thank you. Have a good night.